Asterisk, he sat in seat 1A, the first to board as always. Not because of pride, but because Darius Freeman valued efficiency. His charcoal gray suit fell perfectly on his frame, not a wrinkle in sight. The leather briefcase beside him held documents, worth more than most of the passenger's entire mortgage combined. The presentation inside final numbers, projections, and equity splits would close the biggest deal of his life. Asterisk, a $5 billion strategic partnership. Asterisk. Not a startup acquisition. Not a round of VC funding. Asterisk, an alliance between Freeman Tech and Airline Airlines to overhaul global communication infrastructure from airport logistics to in-flight cloud-based systems. This deal would position his company as the backbone of aviation technology across 5 continents. Asterisk, Darius adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses and glanced at the time. The presentation in Zurich was 14 hours away, and this flight was the bridge between everything he had built and everything he was about to become. Asterisk, he tucked his phone into the seat pocket, buckled up, and closed his eyes to center himself. Asterisk, then. It happened. Asterisk, just as the cabin crew secured the door and gave the usual safety briefing, 2 men in dark blue uniforms entered the plane. Their presence was an immediate energy shift. The noise in the cabin softened. Heads turned. Asterisk, they walked past economy, past business, into first class, and stopped directly in front of him. Asterisk, sir, the taller one said, we need you to step off the aircraft. Asterisk, Darius opened his eyes. Calmly. Asterisk, excuse me? Asterisk, there's been a request for you to deplane. No need to be alarmed. You're not in trouble. Asterisk, passengers pretended not to listen. But all ears were focused on the black man in first class now being escorted off the flight. Asterisk, what's the issue? Darius asked, his tone even. Asterisk, no issue, sir. It's a seating matter. We need to clear it up at the gate. Asterisk, Darius had heard that before. But not like this. Asterisk, still, he nodded once, closed his tablet, picked up his briefcase, and stood graceful, poised, no resistance. Asterisk, as he walked the aisle toward the exit, a few passengers looked away. One woman stared openly. A man whispered something behind his hand. Asterisk, he wasn't dragged. He wasn't shouted at, but in a way this was worse. The silent assumption. The unspoken narrative. That somehow he didn't belong. Back at the gate, no one could give him a clear answer. One supervisor claimed there had been a duplication in seating. Another mumbled something about passenger complaints. Asterisk, but the tone, the body language, it all said what their mouths didn't. Asterisk, you're too black to be that powerful. That composed in that seat. Asterisk, Darius nodded again. No anger. No confrontation. He thanked them for their clarity and walked away. Straight into the airline lounge. Asterisk, he sat down, pulled out his laptop, and typed one sentence into an encrypted email addressed to the executive board of Airline. Airlines, asterisk, effective immediately. Freeman Tech is terminating all pending negotiations and withdrawing funding consideration. Asterisk, no exclamation marks. No threats, just fact, because while they were still boarding passengers, while coffee carts were rolling and seatbelts clicked into place, Darius pulled $5 billion from their future. Asterisk, by the time the plane took off, shockwaves had already reached the airline's headquarters. Asterisk. Phones lit up. Texts flew. A vice president in charge of global partnerships nearly choked on his sandwich when he saw the news on his monitor. Asterisk, Freeman Tech deal collapsed. Read the subject line. Asterisk, within the hour, Airline stock dropped by 4.2%. Not enough to sink a company, but enough to rattle shareholders. Asterisk, media outlets picked it up the next morning. But it wasn't the loss of money that caused the real damage, it was the why behind it. Asterisk, whispers of discrimination, of racial bias, of elite passengers feeling uncomfortable with a black man in the first-class cabin. Asterisk, social media ran wild. Asterisk, photos of Darius Sharp, composed, giving keynote speeches, flooded the timeline. Screenshots of his previous interviews about tech innovation, racial equity, and generational wealth went viral. Users started threads titled, "What Darius?" Did and 5 billion for 5 minutes of disrespect. LinkedIn exploded with CEOs praising his silent power move. One wrote, "He didn't tweet, he didn't protest, he just made a call. That's how real power moves." Asterisk, the airline scrambled. Their PR team released a statement calling the incident a mistake. They claimed it had nothing to do with race and that internal protocols were being reviewed. But the damage was done. Darius didn't respond to their apology. Asterisk. He didn't need to, asterisk, while Airline tried to clean up the mess. Another airline, Skylift International, flew a private jet to San Francisco. The CEO himself, a European billionaire, known for championing diversity, requested a meeting, not in a week, not after things settled. Immediately, Darius met them the next day in a quiet boardroom. He wore the same suit. Same calm energy. They talked numbers, vision, global reach. But before Darius signed anything, he said one thing, asterisk, "I'll bring my resources, my team, my innovation. But I want something else too, asterisk, what's that?" The CEO asked, asterisk, "Contractual clause requiring diversity audits, anti-bias training for flight crews, and executive-level accountability measures tied directly to partnership funding." The room went silent. Then agreement. Asterisk, the deal closed that day. Not just the same $5 billion, but $5.3 billion because Skylift saw the value that Airline had fumbled. Asterisk. Darius walked out of that meeting with more than a partnership. Asterisk, he walked out as a symbol, not of anger, but of calculated strength. Asterisk, he never gave an interview about what happened. He never publicly named the airline. He never posted about it. Asterisk, but within a week, Airline's board forced the resignation of 2 top executives. Their stock remained unstable. And more importantly, other CEOs started reviewing their own systems, quiet meetings, policy changes. Internal training budgets surged because the boardrooms were talking. Everyone wanted to avoid the Darius Freeman mistake. They thought they were removing a man from a seat, but they removed the future of their own industry. Asterisk, not with a bang, not with a headline, asterisk, but with a briefcase, a one-line email, and a refusal to accept silent prejudice. Asterisk, Darius Freeman didn't change the world by shouting. Asterisk, he did it by walking away with his dignity intact and $5 billion still in his control. Asterisk, and as he sat in a new seat on a new plane bound for Zurich, he looked out the window and smiled. Asterisk, because while others saw first class as a destination, he had always known he wasn't meant to fit in a seat. He was meant to build the plane.